This episode is brought to you by HASA. Liquid is clearly better. Liquid chlorine is the highest purity, works immediately, has no added cyanuric acid or calcium, and it will leave your pool safe, clean, and clear. And by the Bottom Feeder professional grade battery powered vacuum system. It sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off with code DVB100.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Visit getskimmer.com/poolguy to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Hey, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'm going to go over some essential equipment for equipment pads, different ways you can approach customers, upgrade their equipment, and what I think would be essential equipment for the pad, and some things that I think that are not essential that people sometimes get talked into purchasing that just are not necessary to have on your equipment pad. Are you a pool service pro looking to take your business to the next level? Join the Pool Guy Coaching Program. Get expert advice, business tips, exclusive content, and get direct support from me. I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, I've got the tools to help you succeed. Learn more at swimmingpoollearning.com. Essentially, all you need for your pool is a filter and a pump, and that's kind of like the basic pad. I've had a lot of pools with just this configuration. In fact, I've had some customers that really don't like their pool and don't use it, and they don't plan on doing any kind of upgrades. I've had a few customers that just want me to cut out the heater, and I've done that before and reroute it, and all they have is a pump and filter. And that's basically all you need to keep the pool running. And that's kind of like the most basic setup. Now, of course, in most cases, you're going to want a heater or a heat pump because you can't really use your pool all season long. Well, I'll take that back. There are certain ways you can set your pool up to where you don't really need to utilize those as much. That's if you have your pool built where the sun's hitting it constantly, there's not much shade. This is a great location because then the pool gets heated up pretty well. You could put a solar cover on there, which I don't care for too much, but that also retains the heat. Or you can build a rectangular pool and have an automatic cover, which definitely helps retain the heat. Retractable automatic cover with a motor, and this helps retain the heat in the pool. But in most cases, you are going to need a heater and heat pump if you want to extend your season, start your season early, or heat up your attached spa because there's no other real way to do that. And a lot of people just use their heat pump or heater primarily to heat up their spa when they're using their jacuzzi, when they're having a party. And it's kind of essential to have that just for that reason. If you're not going to heat up your pool, you'd want a heater so you can heat up the spa and use that. Now, the difference between a heater and a heat pump, I've done podcasts on that, and I probably should do a follow-up on that so that I can go over this again. But basically, a gas heater, when I say heater, I'm referring to the gas heater. And when I say heat pump, I'm referring to an electrical heat pump. That's the main difference. One runs off of natural gas, which is your pool heater or gas heater. Most pros just call it the pool heater because we know that it's gas. And when you say heat pump, if you kind of are in the industry, you know that means electric heat pump, and it runs off electricity and not natural gas. And let me stick here for a moment and let you know that you would want to have one or the other. So if you're having a pool built, natural gas, you'd have to run the line, maybe get a larger meter from the gas company, and then you would have a gas heater. If you're going with a heat pump, you're going to need a dedicated 230 volt breaker and line for that because it does have uses a lot of amps, and you're not going to be able to attach the heat pump to your equipment pad any other way without a dedicated electrical 230 volt line. And this does cost a lot of money to run this particular line to your equipment, so be aware of the cost of that. Probably equal to running a gas line, I guess, and it's something to consider. They do work differently, and I'll go over that in a separate podcast. So that's something you're going to need to heat your pool. So those three elements, your pump, your filter, and your heater would be a basic pad. And most pools have that. They just have a heater or heat pump, a pump, and a filter, and that's all they have there. And that's perfectly fine with the time clock to turn on the pool, or it's running on a variable speed pump with a built-in timer on the back. I would also recommend that the pump be a variable speed pump because it does save you energy. You can set different speeds, and why not? I mean, why not just get a VS pump, because it's going to be more energy efficient and it's a lot better. And you can program different run times directly in the VS pump, which is really nice to have. Now, what about other equipment that I would recommend to customers? Well, I recommend getting, if you have room for this and if you're building a pool, I definitely would add this first before adding it after, because it's a little bit harder sometimes to add it after. But I would definitely put it in a multi-cyclone. These are made by Waterco, and these actually will filter out about 90% of the dirt before it gets to the filter. They're great devices. They have like 16 chambers, and they filter the water or filter the dirt out. And you'll see the dirt on the bottom, and it'll just sit there at the bottom. And these are great. I really think this will help keep your filter clean and extend the life of your filter, and also allow you to clean the filter a lot less because all the dirt is being captured by the multi-cyclone. Now, there are a few caveats here. Number one, you really can't have a DE filter with this. Now, you can design a bypass the multi-cyclone. In fact, they were supposed to sell some here, but I don't think they've hit the U.S. market. And in Australia, where this company is from, the Waterco company, they don't really have DE filters. They have sand filters or cartridge filters, but I think mainly sand filters. That's why they made this, so that you would reduce the backwashing with a sand filter and save water. But the point is, this multi-cyclone filters so well that it'll actually filter out diatomaceous earth. So if you add DE to the pool at the skimmer, it's not going to get past the multi-cyclone. It'll just stay in there and turn everything white, and the filter won't be charged. So these are great for cartridge filters and for sand filters, and not so much for DE filters. But if you're having a pool pad built, you wouldn't necessarily put in a DE filter anyway, or diatomaceous earth filter as they're called, because they're kind of, in my opinion, not as good as a cartridge filter, or maybe not even as good as a sand filter in certain areas. So the multi-cyclone will work perfectly fine for you with a cartridge filter or with a sand filter, and it'll actually reduce the amount of dirt going into the filter, making the filter more efficient. They are kind of gigantic, so if you are planning on having one of these added to your pool, note that if you have your equipment where you can see it, the multi-cyclone will probably stick over any kind of regular wall that you have around the equipment. So it has to go on top of the pump, and it's fairly large, and it's something that I guess is a drawback to some people. But the benefit of it is that it's going to, again, filter out about 90% of the dirt before it hits the filter. And this is maybe a side note kind of equipment thing, but if you do have water features, maybe you have some kind of water feature coming out of your pool, or you have like a waterfall feature that you had built, I really recommend having a dedicated booster pump for that water feature. I would not have it connected to your main pump. There's several reasons for this, but the main reason is if you have it connected to your main pump and you have a valve controlling it, you have to adjust it and turn it on when you want to use it. But I think one thing that you're going to regret if you are having a party and you're using your spa, if you're in spa mode, there's no way you can use the water features that are attached to the pool. And so you're going to kind of regret not having your waterfall or your spillways or your Sean descents operating because you have it in spa mode. But having it in a separate booster pump means that the water feature is attached to a dedicated pump, and that will activate, and it's going to allow you to use your spa in spa mode and have the water features running. Now, to automation, I think it's not necessarily a necessity, especially with the variable speed pumps being so advanced that you can actually connect, a salt system or a booster pump to the pump. I'm thinking about the Jandy Flow Pro pumps where they have auxiliary relays on the back. It's great because then you can just connect your salt water system, and you can also connect a booster pump to the back of that and control it all with that VS pump. But automation does come in handy when you have an app and you want to maybe turn on your spa while you're coming home from a trip, put it in spa mode, turn on the heater. It's also easy to adjust things and keep track of things with automation. But a lot of people don't have it because they don't really think it's worth, unless they have the pool built with it, they don't think it's really worth the cost of upgrading to it. It's pretty expensive, and a lot of times they don't really use their pool as much to utilize automation. And at other times it may be confusing to some people with automated system how to actually use it. But automation, I wouldn't say is essential. It does make life easier, and if you have the money for it, if you're having the pool built from scratch, I would recommend an automated system for sure, so that you can put your pool in spa mode, you can control the lights, everything is at the push of a button on your phone, and it's great to have the automated system. I like automated systems on pools when I service the account. It makes things easier for me, and it's something that I think if you really wanted that next level, an automated system, either through Jandy, Pentair, or Hayward, would be great. And I would say that you would want to keep all of your equipment brand specific when you are building your pad. So if you have a Hayward pump, you probably would want to have the Hayward automation. And, if you have a Hayward salt system, that would go well with the automation. Same with Pentair and Jandy. You want to stick with kind of the same equipment on the pad. And I find that to be helpful when you upgrade later to have all the same equipment. It looks nice, and it also means that a lot of the equipment will be compatible with the automated system. The saltwater generator, the VS pump will communicate directly with the automated panel easily when you upgrade. So if you have all Pentair equipment, let's say you have a Pentair IntelliFlow pump or a Pentair WhisperFlow VS pump, you have a Pentair salt system, well, it's a no-brainer to get a Pentair automated system at that point, and that's the direction you would go. Now, back to the salt system. I mentioned it a little bit here, talking about automation. Do you need a saltwater generator? I would say, no, you don't need one. Would you like to have one? Yes. I mean, it's more of a want than a need. And the only benefit really is that it's going to generate the chlorine at the pool side, and you don't have to add chlorine to the pool. That's really the only benefit of a saltwater generator, in my opinion. Is that benefit enough for you to invest in it and have one installed or have your pool built with one? I think it is, but you may not think it's necessary, and you may not have any problem with just adding chlorine manually, liquid chlorine or tablets or cal hypo. But I wouldn't put it in the essential equipment category along with the VS pump and the filter and heater. It just is something that's an accessory. And even the multi-cyclone isn't a necessity. It's an accessory that I think is great that you should add to the pool. So if I was building a pool, if I was advising a customer, I definitely would get, of course, the variable speed pump, the cartridge filter, the multi-cyclone, saltwater generator, and automation. That's, to me, a no-brainer to have those elements, of course, in a heater. So those elements I would definitely recommend installing. Again, a VS pump, a filter, a heater or heat pump, a salt system, and automation. That makes your life easier, and I think that is a premium equipment pad at that point. You have everything you need to control the pool. You have something that's making the chlorine for the pool. You have another device saving you energy at the pool pad. And then you have a filter that's efficient and easy to clean. And with the multi-cyclone, you're not cleaning that filter as much. Now, what about UV and ozone? Now, of course, you can have these installed when you have the pool built. You can add these afterwards. Are they necessary? In my opinion, they're really not necessary to any stretch. In fact, I find that ozone complicates things, and sometimes it has to be installed properly for sure. And if the ozone system is not installed properly, it's not going to function properly and work properly. And I've had many pools when they first came out where the ozone system wasn't installed properly, and the way I had to get them working was to unscrew a union, let some water run out, let the air out of it, and then it would work for that week. There's one of those things, if you've been doing this a long time, you know what I'm talking about with those first generation ozone systems that just weren't installed properly. Now, installed properly, yeah, they're great. They really help prevent algae in the pool, and they're kind of like something that if you are going like for a premium level pool, you get an ozone or AOP system, ozone and UV combined. Does the UV system work? Well, yes, it does work, but there are some things about the UV system that you should know about, and that is that they're designed primarily to work when the VS pump is running at a lower speed or RPM. They don't work as effectively when the pump is running at a high speed. And if you have a single speed pump, it's going to be pretty ineffective to have an UV system, I should say, because the water has to flow through the UV system at a slower pace for it to work effectively. The UV light kills the viruses and bacteria that goes through there, but chlorine does the same thing. And if you have the proper chlorine level, you really don't need to worry about that. I think it's just something that helps, I guess, psychologically, and it probably does help, I guess, if your chlorine level is low, if you want to keep a lower chlorine level, and having the UV system. And the ozone is designed mainly to prevent algae in the pool, but there's all different ways of doing that as well at a much lower cost. You can add borates to the pool to 50 parts per million. You can use enzymes and phosphates. You can use the Pool RX. All of these will prevent algae in the pool at a lot lower cost than an ozone system. And you don't have to worry about the ozone system leaking. I've had a lot of issues with them leaking over the years. And the UV lamp has to be replaced every 2 or 3 years. And it's something that you have to maintain. The bottom line is the more you add to the pad, the more you have to maintain and worry about breaking. So if you keep it simple and just have the 5 components that I mentioned, you're pretty much going to have an easy, manageable equipment pad. Variable speed pump, cartridge filter, heater or heat pump, multi-cyclone, and saltwater system. Those are essential, I think, and this will make your life easier. The more and more stuff you add to your pad means the more maintenance and the more things can break. And are they actually necessary? I don't really think they are. And, most of the pools on my route, if not all the pools over the years, have never had a UV and ozone system. Only a handful have them here. And to me, I don't really see a benefit, a major benefit of those systems over a pool without them. And that's kind of how I judge equipment or what's necessary. I do see a huge difference in pools with the multi-cyclone by Waterco, and I do see a difference with pools with saltwater systems that are operating as far as preventing algae and keeping a good chlorine level. And I do see a difference with pools with cartridge filters over DE filters, and so I recommend that. And it goes without saying that you do see a big difference in your energy usage or cost with a variable speed pump over a standard speed pump. So everyone's different. Everyone has different expectations of their pool equipment, and a lot of times customers have different expectations, and I wouldn't hesitate to sell something to a customer that wants it. If they want ozone and UV, then sell them a UV and ozone system. If they want a saltwater system, of course sell them a saltwater system. I wouldn't oppose a customer wanting something, but again, do they need it? Probably not. And I don't really upsell those particular equipments, the ozone and UV, to customers. But whatever the customer wants, of course, I'll install it and I'll sell it to them. And a lot of customers are just happy with the 5 basic things I mentioned. And I think that's pretty much essential. And I wouldn't go beyond that in a lot of cases. If you're looking for other podcasts that I've recorded, you can find those on my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. And on the banner, click on the podcast icon, and there'll be a drop-down menu of over 1,600 podcasts. And if you're interested in the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.